You let YouTube figure that out.
Do you want to record, Greg? Do you want me to hold on?
It's recording.
Okay. So first thing I do is I run through everything on a little chart here.
Why don't you do a screen capture?
Can you see that all right? It's just a little hand bob chart here. And what I've done, darn, it was working good before. I ran through this earlier. There we go. So what I've done is I've got the different bands and frequencies, and then the noise. And this is with the power on the house. And if you're going through the pain of turning your whole house off, my suggestion is to do all the frequencies that your radio does and write down your S number as you go through it. Now, if someone's talking on the radio, you got to find a dead spot on the band, obviously. But
Right.
like I've got 160 meters, I got an S1 noise here. Today, 80 meters is quite noisy, but I could turn some Christmas lights off and probably bring that down. S7 just now, I usually have a S5, 40 meters S6, and so on, and get them all down. And that's with AC on the house. Then you flip the breaker, get your flashlight ready, and the other tool you need is a battery of some kind.
Battery.
So this is 30 bucks Canadian. I don't know what it would be US. Probably they would give it to you US. I don't know. It's used for emergency lighting. It's a lead acid battery. It's only 7 amp hours, so it's only going to run the radio for, well, transmit not very long, but receive it'll run it for quite a few hours.
That's like an alarm backup battery is what that is.
Yeah, and they sell them out of any electrical place, or I don't know what your best store would be.
Lowe's, Home Depot,
I think,
anywhere.
Yeah, I'm thinking 20 bucks US maybe.
Yeah, I think like 16
connector
bucks, but that's what that is. That's an alarm battery backup.
Yeah, and they're dime a dozen because they use them for all the emergency lighting and stuff. Now I use a trailer connector here. I would advise against that. Talk to Greg or some of the guys. Anderson Power Pole is the way to go now, I think. Better connector, and I'm going to switch over eventually. But right now everything's on that. So the connector from the radio is here. I've pulled it out of my AC supply, and now I hook it up here. So I'm not going to kill the power to the house because then I would lose you guys, but we'll pretend that I did. So once you've got it jacked in to 12 volts, you've killed the power to the house. You turn your radio on again, and you just go through your bands, and there's my S meter reading right there. And you just write down what it is on battery in your little handy dandy chart. And then you go up a band and try to do the same frequencies if you can. Some bands, if you work them a lot, you might want to do 2 or 3 places on the band, like low, medium, and high. And just run up through all your frequencies of interest, or even if it's not of interest, it doesn't hurt to do them all. And like, here's the TS2000. There's the beauty of the TS2000. Look at how many bands that thing does. So I just did these like an hour ago. And run through them again and see where your noise is. So let's say you're a 20 meter guy and it went from S5 down to S1 or S0. Well, you're getting 5 S units of noise from somewhere in your house. Now, again, this is where very handy if your wife is cooperative, you can get her to start powering up the house, breaker at a time. If it's in near your radio room, you might be able to do it all yourself, just running back and forth. But really handy if you can get someone else to flip the breakers on one at a time. Wait half a minute or a minute, because sometimes when you power up an electronic device, it takes a while to get rolling and spitting out its bad RF. But just do them one at a time, and all of a sudden you'll hit the bad boy. Then there's quite a few ways to tackle that. It's figure out what part of the house that is, start unplugging stuff. Or if it's at a high frequency that you're dealing with and you've got a directional antenna, you can you can chase it down that way. If you don't have a directional antenna, you can make one with a tape measure. So that's a 3-element 2-meter beam made with tape measure and PVC pipes. So if you've got a broken tape measure, all you're paying for is the pipe. So this will cost you all of $3 or $4. Well, and then the cable and the connector, I suppose. And you can run around the house aiming at stuff, even outside of the house, shooting in through the wall. Sometimes I've found stuff, but it's amazing what can be the culprit. I had one that I just could not get away from. It turned out, and I'm on an island. There's like 4 or 5 places near me within half a mile. Sure enough, my brother's place, which is 300 or 400 yards away, had a cheap DVD player that was just pumping out on 20 meters. So I eventually did this trick. Instead of powering down my house, when he wasn't down one day, I know where his key's hidden. I went in and powered down his house. And bang, down it went. Did the same thing I'm talking about. Found this DVD player, replaced it with a $30 DVD player that was equally cheap but didn't put out the noise, and problem solved, you know. All kinds of stuff. And I'm sure Jim and Greg and all the older hams can talk about stuff they've found, but little USB power supply, the little 5-volt, USB power supply, I had one of those pumping out noise. I had a mouse, a corded mouse putting out noise on VHF like crazy. Gave it to my sister-in-law 120 miles away. That solved that problem.
Did your brother know that he got a new DVD player?
Yeah, yeah, and he whined about it. He kept on blaming everything wrong with his entertainment center on that for only about 15 years. But other than that, it went quite well. Now let's see. I think that's about it. Ryan, do you have any questions about that idea?
So no, I mean, I definitely get that idea. I wish there was something a little bit easier. I don't really have a direction. Yeah, I don't really have a directional antenna or anything like that. And truthfully, I don't even know if what I'm hearing is really truly RFI, or certainly I don't know if it's RFI that's like in the house or in the neighborhood, or if it's just really noisy bands. Because kids are having fun. Because I've had, I tell you.
Well, there's your problem.
Because yeah, I was going to say that is one of the problems. But like on, for instance, on like 40 meters, checking into like the south, or listening on the south cars and stuff like that. If somebody's particularly close, their signal seems to like, and this is just an experience talking, right? If there's nobody on the station, there just seems to be a really high noise floor. I'm talking like S9 plus. It's just sitting there loud. But as soon as somebody with a powerful transmitter keys in, it's audibly a lot clearer. Like the noise floor seems to drop for their signal. And when they let go, all the noise comes right back. Is that just the band?
That's your AGC. That's supposed to happen. So if your automatic gain control is on, as a strong signal comes down, the radio automatically turns down both the RF and IF gain, and that'll take your noise floor down and his signal, so it doesn't overmodulate the input of your radio. So that's absolutely normal. So you're looking at S9 noise with no one talking right now.
No one talking. Yeah,
that's not good. But what about? Hey, got any hams nearby you can compare notes with?
There's a couple. We've kind of got different setups though. So really what I need to do, like George is probably the closest. He's pretty close by, and he's got a similar antenna, similar setup. So
and what's he got for noise background?
He says he doesn't think things are that noisy, but I just think everything's just super noisy, except for once I get up to like 2010, and above, it seems okay. But like on 40 and 80, or if I, listen to anything on,
those are the noisy ones.
It's just, and it's just super noisy.
And they're also the fun ones, which is a drag,
Right.
I would say the majority of the time not majority of the time, but more often than not, it's in your house, not outside of your house. But it might be time
And
to
naturally,
pull the breaker.
yeah, I'm gonna have to do that test apparently. And I, being a gadget guy, I have lots of things. So I'm sure there's going to be. There's I'll just say that there's an abundance of potential sources of RFI in my house. So this could be a fun exercise.
Yeah.
Remember back in the day when everybody first started getting the cordless phones? I mean, years ago, back in the 80s. And then everybody had baby monitors, and you pick up a neighbor down the street talking on their AT&T cordless phone. It could be something as simple as that. Getting a baby monitor in the area, or a wireless cordless phone.
Yeah, they've gotten better over the years, but on
They
40,
have.
I don't know if that would be bugging you too much. It might be. You never know. It could be anywhere.
It's a place to start, something to think about, because we'd be sitting, and it would literally be 2 blocks away down at the bottom of the hill, and our baby monitor be going off, and I'm listening to a phone conversation, and the baby monitors were actually not even on. The receiver is, but not the transmitter. You know, the one in the living room.
And a receiver can put out RF too, because it's a heterodyne circuit in there. It's got an oscillator, right? Yeah. Even on receive, it can put out RF.
I'm just saying it's something as simple as that.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go reset your VCR, make sure you know how to set the time back up. Be flashing 12 for months.
Yeah, get ready. Well, you guys get power bumps with lightning storms and stuff, don't you?
Yeah, but I don't have a VCR anymore, so I don't care.
You should be used to it. No, it's tough tracing it down, but now there are some components you could put on the antenna. I'm thinking, what is it? A common mode rejection choke. And it will, I've heard people have success with dropping noise down by doing that. I played around with it, never had any luck. Jim, have you done any stuff with that? A common mode filter? Or
most of the ones you can buy are not adequate enough. It takes a lot of those toroids to choke that stuff out.
Yeah.
So that's another thing I've been looking at is the toroids. Do y'all have a recommendation? I mean, like online, it seems like the Mix 31 toroids seem to be the material that does the best. Is that what you guys have found as well?
There's Jim.
One here is a
Jim's got a bigger toroid than I got.
These are about 80. These are about $80, and they cover up to 30 megs, rated at 3,000 watts. And all that is just a bunch of toroid. Let's see what happened. Oh,
Greg.
Somebody got a chart there. Yeah. It's just a bunch. I'll try to show it on the camera. Let's see. It's just a series of toroids. They're just lined up there like donuts piled on top of each other, with the coax running through the middle.
So that may or may not help you, Ryan, depending on what it is that's happening.
You can put this right at your radio if you have to. It doesn't necessarily have to be at the antenna.
Yeah.
I've actually got one about 50 feet from the antenna, and I have another one of these at the actual radio. So I got 2 of them on my main antenna.
Now, is that just like a filter?
No, it's a choke. It does not interrupt the coax. The coax passes through it.
Right.
Here's the one that goes on your rig.
Yep.
It's the same thing, just mounted in a different box.
I got you.
Here's the one that goes on the antenna. Okay.
I got you.
Depending on what kind of antenna you got, some antennas you don't put it on.
Yeah.
If you do, the antenna won't work. It's counting on that.
Yeah. The only thing I have is a J-pole, so I know what you're talking about now. So.
Greg, there's a slide.
That's a poor excuse for an antenna. Yeah.
Hey,
there's a slide before this that talks about common mode circuits and stuff. It's way back with the ground loops and that. I forget where it was, slide 12 or something. Before that.
Yeah, is that? Are you doing that, Chris? Are you putting that on there?
Greg's running it, but I looked at this thing earlier.
Well, I first came across this many years ago when I bought a.
I'm not sure where that is.
Butternut B4 or B5, whatever it was, vertical, and I could not get the thing to load on 40 meters to save my soul. But
there it is.
it would do 80 through 10, but not 40 meters. So I finally called Butternut or whatever their name is. And the guy says, well, did you put the 40-meter coil in there? I said, no, I didn't. He says, well, take a 1 pound coffee can and put about 7 turns of coax on it and put it, he said, just dig a hole in the ground where your antenna sits on the ground and bury it and hook that in line with your antenna and everything will work fine. And it did ever since then. So these things are strange.
Well, this diagram shows some current on the outer shield of the coax, and they don't illustrate it here, but that's what a common mode choke is supposed to block, is the RF on the outer the outer surface of the shield on your coax.
Yeah, that's a pretty good diagram there. Yeah.
This is the thing that Jim was just talking about. They also call it an ugly balun.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So I was using this while I was out ice fishing with the snowmobile this afternoon.
Oh, you go fishing with those?
Yeah, it didn't catch me a thing.
Didn't catch anything. Might try a fishing line next time.
But I got a guy in the southeast United States with it, so that's not bad.
Oh, okay.
Well, here's one that's a coil of coax on the top there.
Yeah. So what it does is any current coming down to the coax, Ryan, it'll choke it off. It'll stop it so that basically the radio's looking at the difference between the voltage of the pin and the coax, and that's all. There's no extra current coming down there. But again, I've had people say, yeah, that helped their noise, but I've tried it and didn't make any difference. So if you've got a local RF device that's getting up through your roof into your antenna, then you can play with chokes all you want. You're still going to have your S9 noise until you figure out what bad thing you've got in your house, or unfortunately in your neighbor's house. Now I do meteor scatter where noise is really important, and people will say, I'm done. My neighbor just turned on his TV and he's done for the day. Like it's just,
So
if your neighbor's got something and he won't get rid of it, then there's nothing you can do. Well, I guess there's something you can do, but nothing legal you can do.
Right. Yeah.
You could shield your house. You could shield your house.
Yeah, you could get Jim's Bible or something, but that would
There
be
you go. That'll take care of it. That'll fix it.
It depends on how far you're willing to go.
Right. Well, I think my neighbors probably are less of an issue. Like nobody lives in the house immediately next door, and on the other side, I don't think it's much of a problem. And then everybody else across the street, like they all work, and they're all working. Hang on a sec. But like the other houses near me they work during the day, and I experience these kinds of noisy conditions pretty much all the time. So I don't think it's anything that it's at least not any consumer electronic product that they're like turning on and off. They're on when they're home or something like that. If it is anything that's spewing RF from a neighbor's house, it's something I would just have to live with because it's part of their house or whatever. So,
and you
got a lot of things. You got a lot of things these days, like wireless cameras, wireless thermometers. I mean, just wireless everything today.
Oh, and the LED things from China, LED lights from China are really horrible. I know one guy in Meteor Scatter says now that people are taking their Christmas lights down, his noise floor is getting better and better every day now because we're getting past Christmas. But some parts of the city are just noisy. Like where I got my house in town, which I'm rarely at, it's an S9 on 80 meters. I think 40 about the same, or S8. And it was so bad, Ryan, that when I was a working guy and living there, I had an HF station there, and it was just so horrible. That's why I started doing remote, because I thought, why fight it there? And I was re-shingling my roof one day and I took the antennas down. I thought, I'm not going to put them back up. I'm going to look into remoting into my quiet station. And that's how I got going on remote. It was just some cities are noisy and that's the way it goes. But first thing first, see if it's your house.
Yep.
Sorry, Ryan, you were going to say something?
No, I was just curious. LED causes LED
No.
lights cause
No, the lights
certain-
don't. It's the power supply that makes the 2 volts for the LED to glow. That's what makes the noise. Power supply.
Well, that makes sense then, all right?
Yeah, because they got to take 120 down to whatever 2 volts to light the
whatever,
LED.
yeah, because I like the LED technology as far as the bulb
great.
itself.
And done properly, it's no problem. But if you go cheap,
oh no, I get it.
Yeah.
I was just curious as to why, because I have I have a lot of LEDs outside, and here in the garage, I got one fluorescent light up there with LED T8 4-foot LED bulb in it.
yeah, they're wonderful, aren't they?
Oh, it's great. But the other 2 over here are just regular fluorescent. But I got LED lights all over the place. All my smart lights outside. But I didn't realize that the power supply in those might be causing that problem.
9 times out of 10, they're no problem. But there's some, I've been told anyhow. I've never come across one, but I've heard people
That just
talking on the
caused that.
chats that cheap LEDs can be a pain. And it might be just one bulb. See, that's the other thing, Ryan. Like you might find that it's one light bulb that's on all the time and you replace it with one of the same type and all of a sudden your problem's gone.
Well, the idea behind, and I'll tell you this too, and this might not be anything. You get let's say you take a fluorescent tube, like what's in your kitchen. Let's say you got kitchen lights with fluorescent light bulbs. They start losing intensity. The gas starts losing its gas, but you still got that fiber line that runs through it. It's still taking as much energy, but it takes less energy to fire that gas up to illuminate that light bulb. If you look at it, that's when the ends start getting brown and burned. I think that's going to cause noise too, because it's taking more to ignite less gas to get the brightness that you have.
Yeah, and if it's a bad ballast driving,
But
it
the
could be
ballast,
issues.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And GE's got this really cool smart ballast now, but they go bad after a period of time too. Anything that's got electrical current that runs through it is gonna go bad eventually. It's
So we've
gonna burn up.
We've replaced most of our lights in the house after Hurricane Michael. I mean, basically all of our ceiling stuff was destroyed anyway. So other than the lights on fans in the bedrooms and things like that, almost all of our lights are low power LEDs now, which maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe that was a bad decision. But I don't have any fluorescent lights anymore except in the garage, and they're almost always off. So just, normal low profile LEDs in the kitchen. The fans use, most of the time, I've got a fan in here that's on, but most of the time the lights are like the CFLs, the small CFLs or whatever.
Yeah.
Or LEDs.
Yeah. The current.
Yeah. So I mean, those might be causing problems too, but they seem to work fine. And when I've had the lights off, because during the day I don't even run the lights in this room because I've got a huge window over here. But I'll definitely be checking those types of things. I'm not sure lights are an issue because when I'm the only person here, I experience the same conditions and I don't run it.
Yeah. Ryan, do you have a computer running all the time when you're near your radio?
So I have like 12 computers running all the time.
That's a culprit sometimes.
And there's not much I can do to change that situation.
I had
yeah.
Where am I here? I had this Dell here and it lost its power supply and I put in an external one and ran the cables in and had all kinds of noise and ended up buying an internal one again, put it back inside and got rid of the noise. So sometimes if it is a desktop and it's a generic desktop or even a Dell like this one is, you can get new power supplies. If you find one PC is being the culprit, sometimes you can pick up a good power supply for $80. Well, that's again Canadian. So down there, $50, you can get a new power supply and might solve the problem if you find one that's the culprit. Laptops generally don't seem to be the trouble. It's these ATXs or whatever they call them inside these towers that are that can be bad. I'm not saying it is, but again, it's a simple test. You know, you don't have to be running the PCs all the time. Shut them down one at a time and see if maybe do that before you do your house power down, because it'd be nice to to avoid that painful operation. I know
That's true, but that's an answer I don't want. I don't want to know if that's the problem though, because I don't know what to do about that, because virtually, you know, I work in computing. My wife has work computers. The kids are homeschool on their computers, and you know all that stuff all the time. I've run servers for different. I mean, it's just we are a computer-filled household. So if the computers are the problem, I've got a real problem.
No, we're in the same boat, and there's just two of us here. And boy, when that guy from India phones and says, "I am from Microsoft, and I will help you with your computer problem." Okay, which one do you want me to look at?
There we are, back to the car warranty thing. I haven't owned that car in 15 years, man.
No, you know those Microsoft guys, what I do now if I'm in a kind of a bad mood or whatever, especially if I'm watching a show or something, I'll just say, "Oh, just, you know what? I'm glad you called. I'm having troubles. It boots up so slowly that, you know, maybe we can do something here." And he gets all excited. And I say, "Okay, well, I got to power it up here. Just hang on." And I just put the phone down and I pick it up about every 4 or 5 minutes. And I go, "Okay, I'm starting to get the Windows logo now." And then I put it down for another 4 or 5 minutes, and I pick it up and say, oh, I'm coming up to the sign-on screen. Hang on. It'll take a while. And then I've had him going for 15, 20 minutes doing that.
I got to remember that.
Well, thanks, Chris, for the RF noise tutorial there.
No problem.
Live anywhere near any service stations or stores with the big lighted signs?
Not really. I mean, I live in a residential neighborhood, and we have underground utilities, so I don't even really expect I'd get much from utilities. There is, you know, of course, probably about a mile and a half from my house on a corner, there's a gas station.
Yeah, that's pretty
So,
far.
I mean, it's pretty far. I mean,
I don't know.
yeah, I can't really think of anything.
Ed Shed's about a mile away from me. He's giving me trouble with their neon flashy sign.
Yeah, you know, if you've got underground power wires in a newer neighborhood, you should be pretty quiet there, Ryan. You should. This other guy on 40, ask him exactly what he's getting. Like, don't just say it's quiet. What is your S meter reading? Now, don't forget, one radio's S8 is not the same as another radio's S8, but by and large, it'll be fairly close.
I'll have to do that. Get some data points on that. But I mean, I just flipped over while we were talking. I just flipped over to 80 and found a conversation and just got off that conversation a little bit. And the noise floor was about S8. Went back to the conversation, and of course, while they're talking, like I said, I guess with the AGC, it was. I mean, it was. I could hear them and everything like that, but boy, it did feel super noisy just off the channel, just off the frequency. So
no, S8's bad. It's I mean, that's what I live with at my other residence. But if you can find it and get it down, even getting it down to S5 or S4, I mean, a huge amount of difference.
Yeah, because you know, when I'm on other bands that I don't seem to experience the same noise floor, it's night and day. It's totally.
Well,
I can just zip through 20 meters, you know.
The higher you go, the better it gets, it seems. Usually.
Yeah. Okay, well, I appreciate the info for sure, because you know, it's not driving me too crazy yet, but it's just one of those things where you know, everybody talks about, you know, like their S meter. Mine's always pegged out. It just seems like it's always pegged out unless I'm on VHF, UHF, or something like that. It just feels like there's a lot of noise. And also, like on ARRL's site, they've got some samples of different RFI and what it actually sounds like. Sort of the repetitive nature of like things like dimmable lights or compressors or things like that. Sort of the square waves you're getting. And listening to that, I'm hearing some things that are kind of reminiscent of those sounds. So if I'm trusting my ears at all, I feel like it's got to be in the house, and hopefully it's not anything that I can't live without or that I can't choke, to try and get the bass floor a little lower so I can kind of do more, 40 and 80 in particular.
Yeah, it might be time.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for the tips.
That big breaker, painful as it is.
I have a quick question, Ryan. Hey man, do you have your computers and your ham radio in the same general area of your house, or are they separated?
So this computer is about 6 feet from my radio. The rest of the computers are somewhat distant. So I've got my kids' computers are probably a good 10, 15 feet or so that way, but I've got a server closet that's running some rack mounts, probably another 15 feet. Then my laptops in my work office or whatever is at 30 feet. I don't know. It's pretty far. So really just this computer is the only thing particularly close. And the only thing that got on in here while I'm doing anything is my computer and my basically my sound device, my headphone amplifier. I don't even run my speakers or anything like that, or external hard drives. Nothing else is really running other than the desktop machine itself and my audio device so that I can listen. That's it. So just the power supply for the radio itself.
Well, it may or may not be the PC.
No, I do have. Yeah, I'm hoping it's not, because I've kind of got things set up in a really nice way. I really like having this PC on while I'm on the radio, because I've got it piped in through my sound device and mixed in so I can listen while I'm listening to other things or doing other things, or YouTubing, or if I'm on a meeting, like if I'm on a Zoom meeting, I'm actually I could be on the radio at the same time and nobody knows. That kind of stuff.
The new digital modes are fun. Absolutely. I mean, my radio and computer are 24 inches apart and always will be.
Yep.
That's the way it is. Your cat control is going to be right there.
Yep.
Well, guys, I'm going to have to call it a day because I have to actually go to work tomorrow for a little while.
Oh, no.